Okay, so this is just a quick talk through of the character chart that we filled out on Wednesday. I just want to make sure that everybody gets the highlights. So we're going to start with Ralph, who gets elected leader on the island. And it's important that the reason he's elected leader is because one, he's the one holding the shell, and two, he is attractive. And so the fact that he is one of the oldest on the island at age 12, and it says that the attractive boy holding the shell, and that is why he gets elected leader. It has nothing to do with his leadership skills or his intelligence. It's just that he looks like a leader. And there's also a bit of an association there with the fact that he has the shell because Piggy mentions that one of the adults that was on the airplane had a megaphone. And so there's this association with the megaphone and the shell. And so it's like this symbol of authority. More about the shell later. So that is Ralph's role. He, being one of the older ones, becomes the elected leader. And in terms of his thoughts and feelings, first of all, let's talk about his first response to the island. He is really excited to be on the island. He sees the island as an adventure, and that's why he keeps standing on his head. He, like a very free boy, pulls all his clothes off and jumps in the water. He thinks it's a great adventure and he insists that it's a good island. He says that over and over, and this is a good island. It's also important that he talks a lot about his father. His father is in the military, and so he has faith that his father is going to come rescue them. He doesn't doubt that they're going to get rescued, so he's rather optimistic and just feels confident that his dad will come save the day. So he is kind of rude to Piggy, and he is, he takes his role as a leader pretty seriously, and so that is where he tends to get angry about stuff. And we'll talk more in later chapters about how he is very defensive of the fire. He values the fire on the hilltop, the signal. That is one of his highest values on the island. And so that's Ralph. He's very athletic and he's just a healthy, optimistic, happy child when they first get to the island. All right, so now we will talk about Piggy because Piggy and Ralph are the first two that we meet. Poor Piggy. He gets picked on so much. They say he's the punching bag on the island is his role, and they do try to make him the babysitter. They try to give Piggy roles that don't require athleticism, and he gets he stands out from the crowd. Piggy wears glasses. He's the only one who has glasses. He is the only one who is described as being overweight. I call him fat all the time. Fatty Piggy, always very mean and name calling. And no, I'm sorry, we don't ever learn Piggy's real name. He's just Piggy. And another thing that you can notice at the beginning, or a couple of times in there really, Piggy has a different accent than the other characters. The other characters have, um, pretty normal British accents. Hello then, we're going to the island. I'm a very normal British person. But Piggy probably talks more like a Cockney. He's got a little bit of an accent. He says, my asthma, my auntie. And so they make fun of him for his accent. It's a lower class accent. So there's also some social stigmas associated with Piggy. The and he does lose his temper too. Piggy is very smart. And so to some extent he could be the brains of the operation. He does not get selected as leader because he does not look like a leader, but he is the one who has the brains. Ralph even at one point says, "I'm not smart like Piggy." So even though Ralph is mean to Piggy because he doesn't want to stand out, he doesn't want to be the one who's known for liking the fat kid, he Ralph does respect Piggy's intelligence. Um, because Piggy is intelligent, he is kind of this doomsayer. He is like, he immediately wants to be rescued. He immediately sees the danger. He immediately says, "We need survival skills. We need shelter. We need to find a way to get food and water." And so he's trying to be methodical about it, but he's also like, "Look, this is a serious situation. We've got to try to survive." And so in that way, he is more realistic or perhaps more pessimistic with this "we are doomed" attitude that he has here. Um, and of course, he is bullied a lot, which you all have known people, I'm sure, if not in real life, then in movies and TV shows, who get picked on, and then the way they respond to getting picked on makes people pick on them more. And Piggy's not very socially smart at all at the beginning when he has the opportunity to tell Ralph his real name. He instead says, "Well, just don't call me what they used to call me. Please don't call me Piggy." And that's just really the wrong way to handle that. So he's very intelligent, but not socially intelligent. And we'll talk more about the specs later and how really that's the only thing they value him for are his specs because they can start the fire. All right, so now let's talk about Jack. Jack is a redhead that is mentioned only like twice, but it's important to know. And he is given the job of being the leader of the hunters. He's the leader of this choir that shows up on the island, and they're all wearing these black cloaks. And Jack is already their leader because he can sing a middle C or a high C or something. And they really are a choir. They really do sing. That's the kind of choir they were in their boys' school. And I believe that's like Jack and Simon and Sam and Eric and a couple of the others who actually knew each other before they got on that airplane. The other boys didn't. And so this scene where and the choir become hunters is an interesting scene between Jack and Ralph, because Ralph, even though he didn't really want to be a leader, he takes this first step and he diplomatically gives Jack the opportunity to be like a leader of something. He can see that it's going to be a problem, that Jack wants some authority. And so he gives Jack this role of leader of the hunters to make Jack feel better. And that's a very diplomatic move that Ralph makes because Jack is always competing with Ralph for this leadership role. He felt like he deserved to be elected leader. Jack and Ralph are a complicated relationship that we will talk about more because they should be equals. They should be dual leaders of this island as the two oldest, the two most leadership inclined, but instead they become rivals for that position. All right, so he is egotistical, and his initial response to being on the island, at first, he said he sees that they can be mature here. You know, he says, "Call me Meridu. Give me an adult's name." And so he wants to be an adult and be mature. And so he sees the benefit of being on the island and not having any adults, being free. Another one of his first responses to the island, in at the beginning of like chapter 3, he says, "This is going to be great. We're going to have rules, lots of rules. And if you break the rules," and then he like pow and demonstrates, and they all say wacko, zamo, stuff like that. But so that's kind of his idea, is that he can get power out of this relationship. And he is the leader in disrespecting Piggy, and he's not very respectful of Ralph because he's the hunter. That becomes his focus, while Ralph is focused on the fire. He becomes focused on the hunt, and he has a very complex relationship to the hunt. We're going to examine that closer next week. And Jack and the hunt are kind of closely linked in terms of watching Jack mature and change on the island, and his relationship to the hunt and whether or not the hunt is successful indicates how he's maturing on the island. And I think that pretty much covers all of those characters. I don't have a slide for Simon, because the distance learners that were on the Zoom call did that. So Simon is younger than Ralph, Jack, and Piggy. Simon is probably about 10. And his role on the island, he's the listener. Simon doesn't say much, but when he does say something, it's pretty wise. And so pay attention to what Simon says. Simon says, it's game. Um, but he's like a listener and he's quiet. We don't really know his first reaction to the island except that he faints. He is the one that faints when the choir first gets there, maybe from heat exhaustion, maybe from something else. Um, that will become important later. And so the others, everybody kind of likes Simon because he's very friendly. He helps the little kids get fruit out of the trees. He helps Ralph build the shelters. And he's selected. He's chosen to go up the hill with Jack and Ralph. And that's kind of a way of choosing Simon over Piggy, but it's also just because Simon is likable. He's friendly, but he pays attention. And in terms of dialogue, there is um, there's one particular piece of dialogue that I pointed out to the group where he says, as if where he's talking about the beast, he's going to say, um, as if it's not a good island, is what he interjects when Jack and Ralph are arguing about whether or not there's a beast. It's on page 52. And this points out that he's been paying attention. He knows Ralph thinks it's a good island, and that's part of why Ralph is so against the idea of the beast. And so he's kind of throwing Ralph's own language back at them. It shows how observant um, Simon is. And Simon's also kind of a loner. He goes off into that little secret spot in the rushes that will be part of your bell work for the same day this video will post. And just keep an eye on Simon. He's always around, he's always paying attention. He doesn't say much, but he is an important character just like Ralph and Piggy and Jack. So I hope you were able to write down a few of those things. And I hope that this helped you get to know some of the characters.